Would you believe me if I told you that we could take a $5 budget steak and make it taste like a more expensive premium cut steak? I'll show you how to accomplish this in a few easy steps without any special equipment needed. All you're gonna need is some patience and a refrigerator. And this steak dinner that you're seeing right here on the plate, believe it or not, less than 10 bucks. Hey guys, welcome to Cooking with Chef Twan, and today we're gonna be making steak. Not any kind of steak, but a $5 budget steak. Now, what is a $5 budget steak? It's exactly what it sounds like. It's a $5 steak I found at my local mom and pop grocery store. Try to transform it into something better, right? Texture-wise and flavor-wise. I'm really excited about this, and if this works out, then you know what? We can probably have steak more than just once or twice a month. All right, guys, let's get started. Now, here's a steak that I found for less than 6 bucks at a local budget grocery store. And as you can see, the meat doesn't look that bad. I mean, the fat cap could be a little thicker, the marbling could be a little greater, but you know what? It's still a good looking piece of meat. So what we're gonna be doing is dry aging this steak for about 2 days, just 48 hours total. No more than that, because it's just one little piece of steak. If you were to dry age this for a long period of time, by the time you trim off all the dried stuff that's inedible, you'd probably be left with like a tiny nugget of a steak. So I'm very liberally salting this steak, and I'm gonna let this salt penetrate this meat for about 12 hours. After 12 hours, I'm gonna take it out and rinse all the salt off of it. And then our ribeye goes back in the fridge for another 36 hours. So that's 48 hours total in the fridge. Now after, look at how beautiful our steak is. It does look like a dry aged steak. And because this is only a single steak, we don't need to dry age it anymore. Now I'm gonna compare this to a piece of steak on the right, a more expensive grass-fed organic piece of steak that hasn't been cured or treated in any way. Now in a little saucepan, I'm just gonna melt some whole butter, some garlic, a little red onion or shallot, thyme, and rosemary. I wanna really infuse this butter, and I wanna cook these aromatics because we will be enjoying them with our steak. Just let this go until everything comes together and is slowly turning golden brown. Don't worry, when we cook our steak, we will be adding a fresh knob of butter in the pan as well. All I'm doing right now is just scraping the brown butter bits off the sides of the pan and the bottom. Now, it's a good idea to let your steaks rest at room temperature for about 30 minutes up to an hour before you put it into a ripping hot skillet. I don't know if it's just me, but I love starting my steaks off by searing the fat cap. Why don't you guys leave me comments down below to tell me if you guys do the same or if you don't, and if there's any scientific reason behind doing it or not. Just let me know. And because I've never had this $5 steak before, I really want to cook this to about a rare, medium rare-ish temperature, because I really want to taste how the meat tastes now after we salt treated it and let it sit and basically dry age for 48 hours. And with every steak or any kind of meat that you're cooking in the pan, you always want to baste it with butter to make sure that you incorporate all that fatty, delicious flavor, part as much flavor as you can into your meat or your protein or your vegetables, whatever it is. But once you're done cooking it, let it sit and rest on a wire rack. So that way all the juices get reincorporated back inside. Because the last thing you want is for when you cut your steak and it just bleeds all over the cutting board. The steak feels really good. It feels like a nice rare, mid-rare. Perfect. I think it turned out really well. And you know, I've never had a dry aged steak that I did before from a budget steak, so I'm really excited to see how this turns out. And with our steak dinner, we're just gonna accompany it with some asparagus and the crispy garlic and shallots from our brown butter. And look at our baby budget ribeye. 48 hours, grown up to be very beautiful, very elegant. Look at this dish. Can you believe all this costs less than 10 bucks? Throw some flaky sea salt on top and a little bit of lemon. Gotta tell you, this is one fine looking plate. So the proof is gonna be in the pudding, so let's cut into it and see how it turns out. So here we go. You know what? The texture is really, really awesome. So look at the color. Really nice pinkish red, garnet almost. The texture is, it feels like a dry aged steak, really like more dense, and because you know we pulled all that water out of there, so like it eats like a dry aged steak. I'm really happy with this. If I can find more $5 steaks just for myself, I think that's the way I'm gonna go. The thing is, the flavor and the texture feels just like a normal like medium rare steak that you would get at a restaurant. So, well, there is always going to be a drawback of a cheaper steak or cheaper cut of meat, and that's how tender it is. I'm not gonna say that it's a complete replacement for, you know, a more expensive steak. You know, this isn't as like melt in your mouth tender that you would get used to like if you go to a steakhouse or, you know, any kind of restaurant. But for a weeknight meal, you could have, I mean, sure, you can go buy one, you know, $40 steak, or you could buy 7 of these. So when I went to go pick up thyme and rosemary, you know, at the store that I got this steak from, I saw that they had one more $5 steak left. So I grabbed that one too. And I think in the next couple days, I'm gonna try to sous vide that one. I'm not gonna dry age it. I'm not gonna, you know, put it in the refrigerator for 2 days. I'm just gonna put it straight into a food bag and then sous vide it for a couple hours and then see how it turns out that way. Maybe sous vide will make it more tender. So that will stay tuned for that video. It's gonna be really cool. So if you like the content, click the subscribe button. I would love to see you guys again. Thank you so much. Have a great one. Peace.